So I thought this was interesting. Uh, Talked about it already, and probably will stop as time goes on because it doesn't seem to be a valid solution or a viable solution anymore. But Beeper Mini, or let's just say Beeper, is an app that unifies different messaging platforms. It looks like the latest one in the form of Beeper Mini was bringing iMessage over to Android. It was a glorious day when it worked. I tell you that. I remember laying here in bed and I watched Snazzy Lab's video and he explained it all. And I said, let me give it a try. 2-week free trial. And it worked for a couple of days. I mean, it was almost flawless. And I think towards the end of that week, maybe the middle or the end of that week, it just wasn't working anymore. So you log out, log back in. Either you could log back in and then maybe send a few more messages for a little while. But then, long story short, it stopped working. And before I continue, I would be curious, or I would like Snazzy Labs to make a follow-up video. Like, that would be nice to give his perspective on all of this. Because, he did a really good job explaining and showing everything. And I think he's a regular iPhone user. So I don't imagine he cares too much. But since he talked about it, from at the beginning of this little charade, it'd be nice if he provided some type of additional feedback. But that happened, and the lore with Beeper Mini was that you did not need an Apple ID. You legitimately could just use your phone number. And what it was doing is it was tricking Apple servers into thinking that your Android device was an iPhone. It required some type of hardware ID, and I think the app was finding a way to kind of spoof them. Theoretically, and actually, I believe using other people's real serial numbers or hardware IDs or whatever the actual registration information was. And I think Apple recognized that because a lot of devices would be registered using a single hardware ID. And Apple said, wait a minute, that's not right. And that was an easy way for them to be able to flag the issue. Beeper fought back, and eventually the workaround was, at least the one that I chose to do, was get an iPhone 6S up to an iPhone 10. I opted on getting an iPhone 7. Jailbreaking it, and then obtaining a registration ID from the phone, taking that ID and then inputting it into the Beeper Mini app. And I got that to work just for a little bit. Just for a little bit. And then it stopped working. The biggest issue was, both ways. Being able to send and receive just wasn't as consistent as it needed to be for it to become a primary messaging app for anybody. So, needless to say, I'm not using it right now. And in terms of that registration information, I guess I'll hold it up to the screen, or I'll just take a screenshot. We'll see. But that's it. It's hard to see. Hopefully, I'll put a screenshot up. But it says iMessage registration code error. You need to go to the settings and you need to refresh the iMessage code registration. And that right there was becoming the problem. It seemed like it was happening more frequently than it should. Like Beeper originally said maybe, once a week or maybe every couple of weeks. Like, oh yeah, you have to refresh it. And once a week, hey, every Sunday I'll refresh it, not a problem. But it was looking like it was going to be like an everyday thing, or even maybe an every couple of hours thing. And that just wasn't worth it. But the issue now, as Beeper Mini for the most part, has been pulled from the App Store. I think they have open sourced all of their code, so people can continue to try to work on it. I don't know if anybody's going to do that. But the issue is, and that's the title of the article here on 9 to 5 Google, is some Beeper users claim Apple is blocking their Macs from iMessage. So if I could just scroll down and read this one paragraph. There are quite a few reports of what's going on, but no two seem to be exactly the same. In some cases, Beeper users are simply running into problems keeping iMessage connected to the app, which is the issue I was having, while others report that iMessage is entirely broken on their Macs. Even through Apple's own app, iPhones don't seem to be affected. So what's happening there is, I know I said I used an iPhone 7, a jailbroken iPhone 7 to try to go through this process. You could have used a Mac, and I'm happy I didn't. And I think part of my mindset was, one, even looking at the instructions, I think the Macs, if you used your Mac, you still needed to use your Apple ID. I wanted to be able to use a phone number, and on Beeper's website it said, at least from what I'm recalling, in order to be able to use a phone number, you needed an iPhone. Cool. And if you needed an iPhone that fell within that particular range for it to be jailbroken in the way that they explained on their website. Yes, you probably could have done it with an older one or a newer one, but I said, let me give it a try with this iPhone 7. Cool. Now, I think what has happened is that for those individuals who went through this process with their own personal Macs, Apple was able to flag them and say, hey, you've probably violated some type of terms or an agreement when you registered your Mac or when you logged into Mac OS for the first time and agreed to whatever it is that we click through and never read. And that's that. And the last paragraph is, the former suggestor could have been issues with Beeper's connection method, which is the app not working, while the latter seems more like an intentional move by Apple. One user who contacted Apple support after their machine stopped sending iMessages was apparently told that they had sent too many messages and had their account flagged as a result. The going theory among users is that Apple is banning the hardware IDs used by these Macs. Beeper uses that data to register the app with iMessage. So it would be nice if Apple made another statement, because they did earlier, talking about safety and security and stuff like that. Because yeah, that would be really unfortunate if the hardware now, I mean, we're talking at a hardware level, is not functioning the way that it's supposed to as a result of, you using another app, whether it was right from Apple's perspective or whatever. But yeah, that would be really unfortunate. And when it comes to hardware IDs, I don't know how that hardware ID is generated. Because you could say, well, it's just a serial number, which I don't think it will be just a serial number. I think it's probably the serial number combined with your Apple ID and even maybe the username. It's probably a mixture of something. So I do wonder, for these individuals who are having issues, if they either A, signed out of their current Apple ID and created a new one, would they still have the same problem? B, just change their username on the machine, logged in and used the same Apple ID, would they have the same issue? Or C, unfortunately, if you factory reset the machine and start from scratch, does that change anything? Is whatever aspect, is something new generated when you install a fresh version of Mac OS on the machine? Don't know. So yeah, I am happy that Beeper Mini was here. Like I said, I enjoyed it a bunch. The phone I was using when using the app was this Pixel 8. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to say I fell in love with the Pixel 8, but that was the most I'd used the Pixel 8 since I purchased it. And this isn't a review of the Pixel 8, but that 6.2 inch screen compared to the 6.3 of the Pixel 7, you feel the difference. And I really started enjoying that device while I was using it. So maybe I'll pick it back up again and continue using it. The main issue I have right now, which again isn't an issue, but I have two physical SIM cards in each one, or one physical SIM card in each one of these phones, iPhone 15, Zenfone 9, and I was just reading a message right there. Also, why is the VPN connected? And I want to be able to well, right now, I still iMessage. You know, like that is the reason I have this phone. So I don't think I'll ever, I don't think I'll switch over. Maybe when RCS is supported later on. I don't know. All that to say, the Pixel 8, I like this phone. I really do. And maybe at one point, yeah, I'll just take the SIM card that's in the Zen phone and put it in the Pixel. Don't know. We shall see. But back to the whole point of the video is hopefully those people who are having issues with their Macs are able to find a solution. And, you know, it's, I was talking about this in my last video when it came to Android's fragmentation, and it was nice that Apple exhibits the control when it benefits you. Like, oh, you have an older device, but Apple still supports it, so you'll get that new operating system update at the same time as the people who have the newest devices. Like, yeah, that is nice. But for something like this, with this iMessage stuff, I mean, one, the fact that iMessage is as closed as it is kind of sucks. But, you know, that's understandable. But then two, yeah, for people who, yeah, tried something new, and now some of them are seemingly being punished. And if they aren't able to get iMessage or FaceTime or whatever working properly on their however many hundreds of dollars device, that would be extremely unfortunate. So, like I said, I used an iPhone that I picked up for relatively cheap. We'll see if it if I continue to try to mess around with Beeper or not. I don't know. But yeah. Hopefully those people are able to find some type of solution, and Apple doesn't clamp down on them too hard.